Welcome back to Insights IAS Analytica. So as discussed in the previous video, we'll be taking up a question from modern India today. The question is, bring out the constructive programs of Mahatma Gandhi during non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. This was a 15 marker. Okay. So first let's analyze the trend of how important modern India is. So if you analyze from 2018 to 21, you can see that 1 to 3 questions are usually asked. They are usually easy to moderate. They have high cost benefit ratio, and most of the questions are directly asked from freedom struggle. The repeated theme is Mahatma Gandhi. So we usually call him father of nation, but in UPSC we should consider to call him godfather, because you will understand how important Mahatma Gandhi is. Essay, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, all the papers, questions on Gandhi have been continuously asked. These are the previous year questions just from GS1. You can see how in 2015 they asked 2 questions, 16, 18, 19. Okay, not only GS1, even GS4 questions from Mahatma Gandhi have been asked. So you can't ignore any questions or any topic related to Gandhiji. Now let's address the question. The question is, bring out the constructive programs of Mahatma Gandhi during non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. I've highlighted the keywords here in red. You can underline them whenever you write your answer. It has been taken from the syllabus, the freedom struggle, its various stages and important contributions from different parts of the country. Okay. So the first thing is that how to write an introduction. You remember in one of the previous video, I showed about different approaches to write introduction. There was definition based, current affairs based. So for history question, how to go about it? Usually you can't write current affairs based because it is history question. You can write historical background. Like for example, a question on Subhash Chandra Bose and Mahatma Gandhi. You can just give brief idea about their background or giving a reason for an event. Say for example, a question on 1857 uprising has been asked. You can give immediate reasons briefly in the introduction itself, or you can explain the keyword itself. Let's see how to address introduction for this particular question. As I said, we'll be taking up explanation of the keyword itself. So now I don't recall what constructive program is. So I'll think of what Gandhiji did. He wanted Britishers to be out. Okay. So that is political freedom. And then we know that he worked for downtrodden classes, women. That is social change. So I can relate that with constructive program somehow. And I can write introduction like Gandhiji's constructive programs were series of initiatives to bring about individual and social change. So as to achieve political freedom, he used these constructive programs to uplift various sections of the society, worked for them, to fight against Britishers also. This is general introduction. I just didn't know anything, but I wrote one introduction, which is decent and not wrong. Okay. The second introduction that you can write is with the knowledge that you have. That is what constructive programs are. So the second introduction is constructive program is a term which has been given by Gandhiji himself so as to achieve political freedom, but also social, economic and cultural regeneration among masses. He used this tool to fight evils that were present in the society at that particular time and to create egalitarian society. See, this I knew about what constructive program was, and then I created an introduction. Okay, so now once we are done with 2 type of introductions, let's see how to go about body. So first we have to address what was motivation for Gandhiji behind this constructive work. One was this book, Unto the Last by John Ruskin. It was also motivation for Gandhiji's Talisman actually, in which he highlighted how growth can be achieved if we uplift the poor. So there is this term Daridra Narayan, which was actually given by Swami Vivekanand, but used much more by Gandhiji. It actually means uplifting or helping the poor is like helping God itself. So that motivated Gandhiji. Then second motivation was experience in South Africa, where he did this constructive work in his Tolstoy farm, Phoenix. Okay, that was another motivational factor. Then third is Swadeshi movement. Even though he was not present during the Swadeshi movement, he understood the potential of the masses. Okay, so that was another motivation. Now, even INC understood the importance of these constructive works. That's why in the 1920 Calcutta session, a resolution was passed to start this constructive work. Okay, in the non-cooperation movement. In 1928 INC session also again Gandhiji's constructive programs were emphasized. So even the Congress understood its importance. Now, once we are done with this, the question actually asked about constructive programs during non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. So we should address this briefly in our answer. So what was non-cooperation and what was civil disobedience? The name itself says everything. Non-cooperation is not cooperating with the Britishers, but that is through resigning from the jobs, okay, or leaving schools. That was how they resisted, non-cooperating with them. The aim was to attain self-government, but under British rule itself. But CDM was completely different. It was not passive like non-cooperation. It was active resistance, that is targeting British laws. That's why salt was taken as a medium. And then the aim here was Purna Swaraj. They wanted complete independence. So that was the difference between non-cooperation and CDM. So you can give briefly something about this, what I told, and then we can start with the core part of the answer. To address the core part of the question, we can't randomly write points. Like if you think of constructive programs, many things would come in my mind, like untouchability, village republics, khadi, but randomly writing that won't make any sense. Like it will fetch you marks, but the aim here is to structure your answer properly. Now there were two ways that I could have written this answer. One is the way like NCM. I could have written about NCM and many of the constructive programs that popped up during NCM, or CDM I would have written and many of the constructive programs that came up during this time. That was also a right way. Then another way was this, that is I will differentiate, I'll create dimensions. So you remember this one tool that I gave in one of the previous videos, staple, okay. With staple, I could have created multiple dimensions. So here S was social, then P was political, and E was economic. L was legal, administrative, technology. That was not needed here. But with this, I can actually frame an answer here. I'll show you how. So once staple is done and I have these three dimensions, now what I'll do is, I know random points are coming into my mind. I'll just fill them here. So in social, what I usually created was another mnemonic. That was HT crew. Okay, if you have this HT crew in mind, you will not miss major of the social dimensions. Like H stands for health, T is for tribals, C is for caste, R is for religion, E is for education, and W is for women. See, major things are covered here in any of the social dimension. So I'll show you how health, sanitation comes under health, T tribals came here, C caste came here, R religion came here, E education came here, W women came here. See, most of the sections are already covered. Now, once when we are done with this and we created the sub-dimensions here, social, removal of untouchability, Hindu-Muslim unity, sanitation, education, that is basic and adult both, empowerment of women, prohibition, and like peasants working for lepers, political, village republic, political awareness, economic, I know he worked for khadi industries, other village industries, economic equality. We can't randomly write points here, but even if we can't recall during exam time, like writing points are good, but it's better to substantiate your points with examples or some of the events that happened. So, removal of untouchability. And one of the things that you should be taking care of is when you write a point, you should give in your answer that when did it happen, during non-cooperation or civil disobedience. Okay, you have to highlight that. So untouchability, Gandhiji actually understood the importance of untouchability, like he wanted it to be eradicated, but it was not highlighted. He used to work for it. But what happened was, like after the Pune Pact, this came into limelight, untouchability, that everyone knew that we have to eradicate this. It is a big evil that is still pertaining in society during that time. So what Gandhiji did was, he released this newspaper Harijan, then he created this Harijan Sevak Sangh to work for the upliftment of this particular section. So that's how he worked for removal of untouchability. Now Hindu-Muslim unity. Now we have to analyze when, during which phase Hindu-Muslim unity was more. We know that during non-cooperation, that was 1920s. And what was the reason for that? The reason was Lucknow Pact. Okay, in Lucknow Pact, what happened was Muslim League joined with National Congress. So that's why Hindu-Muslim unity happened during that particular phase, which was reduced drastically during civil disobedience. Why? Because in the Nehru report, they didn't accept any of the points that Muslim League wanted. So that's why they didn't join during the civil disobedience movement. That was another point that you should have written. Then sanitation. We already know that Gandhiji worked for sanitation. He himself went and cleaned toilets in his ashram. Education, he worked for this basic education, that is collaboration of mind, body and soul. Adult education, he wants adults to be aware of what is happening around them. Empowerment of women. Kasturba Gandhi, his wife. Okay, she herself vouched for women empowerment. Then Sarojini Naidu, she led the Dharasana Satyagraha. These type of examples you have to give. Prohibition, that is prohibition for drugs, liquor. Okay, so what he did was he suggested the Congress committee to create shelters where usually these tribals or laborers were addicted to drinks. So he asked Congress committee to create shelters for these people so that they don't get addicted to these type of prohibitory items. Then empowerment of peasants, labor and tribals. We know he himself, Champaran Satyagraha, Kheda Satyagraha. You can give examples of this. Working for lepers. There was this Kushtdham. Okay, he created Kushtdham for lepers. So see, these many dimensions and examples under them I have addressed here. Next is political. We know he wanted bottom up approach for governance. So he wanted village to be empowered. Okay, political awareness. He wanted masses to be aware of all the political activities that were going on. Economic. He vouched for khadi industry. He called, as sun is present in solar system, how important sun is, that is how he called khadi is for village economy. That was his sentence. Other village industries also flourished, like paper industry, soap industry. Okay, economic equality. You know the concept of trusteeship. So what he called was that the wealthy people are not actually owners of their wealth. They are actually just trustee. They just are trustee of their wealth. So these many points I have written, and see, I have given it with example also. So as we have discussed the core part of the question, it is important that we should highlight some of the importance of constructive programs during independence time. So what it did was, it created these ground workers so that they will take part in Indian national movement. Then it kept the morale of people high during passive time of national movement, and it made people aware of the inequalities that were prevalent in the society during that particular time. So in 2-3 sentences you can give about the importance of constructive programs. Okay, so now as we are done with the body, let's see how to go about conclusion. So we can write various type of conclusion here. One is that it led to mass participation. All the sections of the society took part in Indian national movement. That type of conclusion you could have written. Or you could have written about importance of constructive programs in the present time, like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, women empowerment, then Panchayati Raj, 73rd, 74th Amendment, prohibition. This type of conclusion also you could have written. I have provided sample answer here. You can just go through them. I will not read it again because we are actually providing them in our website. Okay, you can pause here and write it down, or you can directly download it in the PDF format from the website itself. So one thing that we are planning is to come up with prelims content. So you people can give your suggestions of what you want, what we should be working on. Okay, so that will help us also. And thank you for your precious time.